All right, we're back again for another episode, and we have a lot going on in the world right now, as everybody knows, and a major question on a lot of people's lips is this spiritual war? Are we in the middle of a spiritual war? Is all these tangible things we can see and hear and smell, are all of these things that we're experiencing, is it just a physical experience, or is there actually a deeper and more powerful force behind all of this upheaval we have in the world right now? So that's where we're going to launch today.
It's a good question.
It's an amazing question.
So we have a question. What do you think spirituality is?
Oh, and see, that's going to be my question. Because we have to define what is spiritual before we can start talking about whether there's a war. So what is spiritual? Is it simply that which is unseen? Is it that which is eternal? Is it that which is outside of space and time? Is it that which is the deeper and intrinsic value of everything that we experience? I know more questions, right? Those weren't really answers. But those are the questions I have when I hear the word spiritual, So what is it? What is spirituality? What does it mean being spiritual? We hear a lot of it. I just feel more spiritual now than I used to. I've up-leveled in my video game of life, and I'm more spiritual. What does that even mean?
It's a very good question. And as a human being, when we think of something being spiritual, we automatically connect emotion into that. Meaning, a lot of people interpret spirituality as being anything that is positive emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And other people interpret spirituality as being things that are both negative and positive emotionally. But if you really feel into the word and what people mean when they're using it, you can feel this texture to it that matches the heart of you.
Yeah, I can feel that.
And there's really not a word for it, but most people can feel it.
Feels kind of silky.
And there's this understanding that with that feeling is something sacred. So it's some type of mysterious, sacred sensation when you actually speak the word spirituality and feel into it. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So let's go off of that premise. Spirituality is that which is deeply felt, mysteriously felt, connects to a myriad of emotional states. And what does spirituality elicit?
Well, I think it elicits all that is physical. I think all of our physicality arises out of the spiritual world.
Well, that's accurate. But if you are engaging spiritually, what is being activated?
Well, your heart's being activated. Your presence is being activated. You are definitely in the moment when you are coming from in here. I know that's not the full answer you want, but...
Well, it's good. So let's put that in the context of something that's dark. Okay? How does that match something that's dark? So repeat your words. It's presence. What else did you say?
It's heartfelt.
Heartfelt.
It is coming from almost resting in this place. You can feel that your root, your anchor is here when it's coming from a beautiful and spiritual place. If it's dark, coming from a place of darkness, what you end up feeling a lot of times is a lack of heart. A person is heartless. Someone is, they have a dark heart, a heart made of coal. Or if you're the Grinch, 2 sizes too small heart. So the heart's not involved in the way it would be when you're coming from a place of beautiful spirituality. Darkness also would be a place of selfishness and a place of lack of compassion. Something has to go cold inside of you and no longer have the ability to have empathy for people whenever you're in that dark place. Something gets turned off or occluded.
So we're going to explain it like this. If spirituality is the invisible fabric, okay, which it is, the invisible fabric of life, which everything is built upon, and it actually comes from ultimate wholeness. But in order to experience that ultimate wholeness, there needs to be a cultivated connection. So when someone is speaking of spirituality in a positive sense, hopefully they're speaking of that connection.
Mm-hmm.
When someone is speaking of spirituality in a negative sense, what's being spoken of is the disconnection within the invisible fabric. So what does that mean? If it all comes from wholeness, what does that mean? It means that it is the denial of the wholeness, the denial of the connectedness, the denial of the oneness. Now, think about darkness within that context. Fits, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It does. I remember when I was in the Orthodox Church, Orthodox Christianity, the idea of a place called hell didn't exist. That was not a part of that world. Your own hell was your deliberate disconnecting from the source of all things. You created your own hell by the way that you were cutting yourself off from life itself. And that would create your own darkness. So, yeah, along with what you're saying. And I always thought that was actually a great, a much better understanding of darkness and hell as opposed to what I'd grown up with it being some place somewhere that you were cast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wise. So, what causes disconnection? Pain.
Sure.
In essence, pain causes disconnection. So, what causes connection?
Well, you can still have connection through pain. It's making the intentional effort to stay open and aligned and feel that connection, that matrix, that spiritual matrix within you. The acceptance that even in the pain, you're still within that loving matrix at the same time. It doesn't always feel loving when you're in severe pain, but it's the acknowledgement that that's what you're doing. You're staying deliberately connected through the heart to that all that is while you're in pain.
Yes, we agree with that. We would say if disconnection is pain, then connection is love. And we agree that you can still feel love within pain, but many don't take that route.
True. People get nasty.
To feel love within pain.
Oftentimes.
So when we hear spiritual war, being spiritual beings that we are, to us it's really speaking of where someone is in their perspective of spirituality and how much needs to undergo an alchemy into its aware state of wholeness and being able to be involved in that alchemy. So it's not that you've got pain fighting love. It's that you've got pain transforming into love. And that process is brutal. Okay, so let's talk about the process. In order to heal pain, what needs to occur? Tell us one of the first steps to healing pain.
Well, it goes to what I was going to say a second ago when it passed in my mind was we look at pain in Chinese medicine as obstruction, as stagnation. Something isn't moving. And we know that when you're tense, when your body tenses, energy doesn't move through you very well. And that type of tension can actually create more pain. So to have a lack of pain and from that lens would mean finding a way to relax even in the midst of the pain and allow there to be flow again. Mm-hmm. Because flow is life. You cut the flow off, you're going to have pain and ultimately stagnation and death. So reestablishing that flow is crucial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. And reestablishing that flow is connection.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you can feel the different energies no matter what word you use, and understand that one of those words implies light and the other one implies the absence of light. So you can also say spirituality is awareness.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, because awareness creates flow again. Ignorance isn't necessarily blissful. It gets you in a lot of trouble when there's ignorance, especially when it's affecting everyone's life. When you keep maintaining that state of ignorance, it isn't just affecting you. And awareness is a crucial piece of what we're encountering, I think, right now, because we have, it seems like, some folks wanting to really strive for awareness, truth, and there are some folks who feel like they've locked in on what is truthful, and they've shut the awareness down because they feel like, well, I've arrived, I've got the answers, I don't need to look anymore, I don't need to keep open anymore and be aware of anything else. And so we end up with what? Stagnation, and that can happen for any of us. So when you start shutting it down thinking, I've locked in on the truth, I'm done, then there's no more movement, there's no more receptivity. So you end up with stagnation all over again.
Mm-hmm. So when you're transforming something negative into positive, or when you're transforming pain into love, or denial into awareness, the first step is becoming aware. Pain is always healed through awareness. Has that been your experience?
Well, yeah, and when you don't deny your pain, physical or emotional, whatever it is, and you actually put your awareness on it, we also know that that also brings energy, chi, life force, to that point of awareness. And if pain is stagnation, and you're bringing life force to that point of stagnation by your awareness, you're then creating a way to create movement again, which in theory would then free up the pain.
Yeah, very good. So what happens once you bring something into awareness? What's the next logical thing that begins to occur? Problem solving starts to occur as soon as there is some form of awareness. Yes? So someone who's actually moving toward health from unhealth, that's another way you could say this, is going to be able to start pointing their energy in the direction of how to problem solve the issues at hand. Yes? So they're still engaged. Whereas someone who is wallowing in pain is not engaged in a problem-solving mindset.
Right.
Okay? So not involving yourself in a problem-solving mindset also implies that denial is still occurring, that awareness has not fully set in. Because awareness is the kind of the catalyst. It's what gets everything moving.
Right.
In this alchemy process, which brings everything into a state of harmony. Okay, so is darkness disharmony? Sure.
Yes.
Is light harmony? Certainly.
Coherence, lack of coherence.
Can you have harmony with denial?
No.
No, you can't. So what is really happening is you're undergoing a mass alchemy. An energetic alchemy.
You're saying right now, what we're experiencing right now is a mass alchemy. This often chaotic, conflict-ridden environment that we find ourselves in, this is a process of alchemy.
Yeah.
So who's driving the alchemy?
Well, you guys are.
So we're consciously and often unconsciously driving this alchemy. Is there an unaware aspect to many of us that are purposeful in what we're doing?
Well, always.
But knowing, so if I hear the word alchemy, something is changing from one thing to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're having conflict, and it is blind conflict, meaning I'm right, you're wrong, butt heads, go at it, and that's the attitude. Not a deeper spiritual perspective of we are transforming darkness into light, and we're doing it in this very well thought out and organized and harmonizing method. That's one way of looking at it. But don't you think that most people are coming at it from I'm right, you're wrong, and we're going to overcome you? is that still alchemy working towards a positive outcome?
You mean that's what a lot of people think that a spiritual war is?
Well, that's what's going on. We're talking about, is there a spiritual war going on right now? And if the answer is yes.
We're winning, you're losing kind of thing?
Yeah, right.
Right, but that's what we're explaining, that no, that's not... It feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's really not essentially what's happening. It's not somebody wins and loses. It's something prevails.
What's the difference between prevailing
Goodness
and
prevails.
winning? Well, isn't that winning?
No, it becomes the dominant vibration. It's not at war with that which it is.
Yeah, if you're going to pull back the lens that far.
We already have. So you're talking about an entire fabric of reality,
right,
of which all of it exists within it, and lots of it is immature in its immature stage and in its denial stage, and it's...
Okay, we got to stop right there, though, because I can already hear what people are thinking and saying. How can we have something that is oneness, is one thing, and how could it be, parts of it be immature, and then how could it also be trying to harmonize itself if it's already a whole?
Because it allowed itself to have individual perspective.
Why?
For the experience of it.
So just for the shits and giggles?
It's not shits and giggles. Feel the essence of spirituality. Feel the essence of that which you're connected into. It is highly intelligent. It is the source of everything. It is love more fully than you've ever experienced. It's absolutely gorgeous.
So it's
and
more...
in order to fully know itself from other angles, it's split into so many pieces. And so you're all brothers and sisters. We, the angelic realm, Angel is channeling right now. We are your brothers and sisters. We all come from the same source of life. So this is a maturing process. Okay, this is source perspective in all of its forms, maturing into the awareness and experience of absolute wholeness through the individual perspective.
But it has to be a playground of sorts. I mean,
it is a playground.
If something is whole, that means it's complete.
Exactly.
So,
but when it splits into...
Why did it split?
In order to know itself.
How can it not know itself if it's whole?
It does.
Okay.
But not in its individual versions.
So it's the experience of it. So it's kind of like this, right? If you've got a caterpillar and it turns into a butterfly, it doesn't mean that the caterpillar wasn't whole. It doesn't mean that it wasn't complete. It just wanted a different experience. Therefore, it transforms into something that's slightly different, but it's still whole and it's still part of the original.
Yes.
Neither one's better than the other. It's just a different experience. And so it goes through metamorphosis or alchemy in order to have the different experience.
Yes. And so if you could zoom out on the entire experience, it looks like a war, it feels like a war right now, because even within oneself, there is your language is very pointed toward fighting.
Yeah.
All of the words, battle, war, all of these...
Victor.
Yeah, there's always a winner and a loser. And so concepts of interconnectedness there's not a lot of words for those, at least not that we know of.
That we use.
So you have to be able to zoom out and see that the source of all life, which created every single one of you never get away from it. You never run away from it. You are never disconnected from it. But you are allowed free will, so in your perspective, you can be disconnected from it. And from that perspective of disconnection, you can commit all kinds of atrocities toward yourself and others by viewing them as separate than you, and therefore less important than you. And this is such a deep concept, because it's not like you just get this concept and, oh, I make all of the greatest choices now. It's, oh, I get this concept, and every single day I'm taking it deeper into my understanding of how to treat myself and how to treat others, and how to balance this idea of separateness within wholeness, because they both exist. They're both real. My free will does exist. Your free will does exist. And with it, you can choose to create love or pain. But then it comes into the dissection of what is love and pain. Is being uncomfortable pain? No, it's not. It can be processed and thought of that way, but that is not actual pain. Pain is disconnection. That's what we would consider pain. Uncomfortableness can be a myriad of things. On the journey to wholeness, on the journey to creating more connection and harmony, that which does not jive with it has to go. In order for it to go, it has to be brought into awareness. As it's brought into awareness, it feels like you're fighting it with your own sense of morality and your own sense of what's right. And there is an element of that happening. Are you fighting it with what you know to be right? Yes. You're standing up to it. You're saying, no, you need transformed. This version is not very mature. And even within one concept can be immature and mature versions. And right now, that's what humanity is fighting over. What is the immature version? What is the mature version?
And what's funny, though, is a lot of people think that they're coming from the mature place, even though they're in opposition in their mind to the immature person. And you flip it, and it's the same perspective. Well, no, I'm the one who's mature. You're immature. No, it's not true. And so this is what you have going on. So in that sense, we are in a sort of tug of war. But from what you're describing, if I'm understanding correctly, as a true spiritual war, you cannot have war in spirituality. Not in the way we define war, of something conquering something else.
Yeah, not quite in the way that you think about it. Because it's not that light kills the darkness.
It obliterates the darkness.
Light in its splendor is so much more naturally powerful than darkness, because it's in its actual real state, that it terraforms the darkness.
Good word.
Okay? So that's what's happening in a spiritual war.
Yeah.
Light terraforms dark.
Ooh,
and it will
nice.
always be that way. It will always end up that way. Because that which you come from is light. And that you cannot change that.
So it always goes back. So our son, Angel and I, our son's name is Origin, and he got kicked out of the church posthumously, I believe, for stating that there is no way to be separate from God for eternity, because all that is always goes back to from where it came, which is the oneness of God. All returns back. There is no darkness for eternal darkness, because everything gets brought back to its original state, which is light. Which means, in this sense of answering the question, is there spiritual warfare? The answer from that perspective is no. There isn't spiritual warfare. There's an illusion from our human splintered perspective, if I hear you correctly, of some type of battle. But if you pull back from it, you realize that is not the case at all. If you don't see the tapestry, if you don't back up away from it far enough, you don't understand the whole tapestry. You're just seeing a small part of it, and you misinterpret what's really going on.
Yes. All that to say, you should still always stand up for goodness and involve yourself in goodness in every single way. That is the involvement in the alchemy process. So it's very important. Not
to sit back on your laurels and do nothing and wait for some white knight to show up and make it all okay. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's not even what is the point of being in this experience if you don't involve yourself?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah.
So
yeah.
We have no judgments to make on anyone. We're just saying that in order to really be a part of the alchemy in a way that has awareness, in a way that has intention, you have to actually interact with that which is upright for you.
All right, so I hope you've enjoyed this discussion around, is there spiritual war or warfare? So until we see you again, thanks for watching.
Thank you.